Hi audience, my name is Mfundo Radebe and I stand in front of you today on behalf of and representing the WDB Growth Fund. So I think just before we get into the granular details of the fund, I think I'll just explain the company structure and where things stand. So we are primarily controlled by WDB Investment Holdings. They own a controlling stake of 51% into the fund. So WDB, they have a track record of a good 26 years of impact investing and supporting women and youth-owned businesses, especially in rural areas. Another key shareholder is Grovest. And so with Grovest, they are admin compliance and management. So without Grovest, we would be in shambles. So I think just the Growth Fund, as Jeff did say, is an ESD fund. So with that being said, we raise capital from corporates. That capital from corporates gets recognized in the books as an asset as opposed to an expense. If corporates do spend with ESD, it's usually just you write off the expense and they carry on with business. So with us, it sits on the balance sheet. They get their returns and dividends as well as funding entrepreneurs, especially entrepreneurs that can't get funding from banks. Banks would deem them as unbankable transaction or unbankable applicants, and that's where we come in and provide those funds. So primarily what the fund does is we take an equity stake in growth stage businesses with the core mandate of the fund being to address the needs of growth stage businesses due to lack of capital and funding while providing ESG recognition points and the tax benefits. So the objectives of the funds are pretty simple. It's to create and provide an impactful ED and SD solutions for investors, opening up the market for innovative SMEs, and cultivating the spirit of entrepreneurship in the ecosystem. Sorry about that. So without proper governance, obviously there is no fund, and governance is at the heart of the WDB Growth Fund. So we have all the necessary structures in place and infrastructure. So we make sure that the fund is a well-oiled machine, being from the board of directors, audit committee, investment committee, all policies and licenses. So in order to qualify as a qualifying company, there's obviously some criteria that we do apply, and the company needs to have a track record of a good 3 to 5 years. And even though we may find startups, but they need to have an off-take agreement that is reliable. So you can't just get your friend and they write to an off-take agreement. And they need to get their revenues of at least 2 million per annum. And the business ought to be scalable with the entrepreneur involved on a full-time basis. So you can't part-time and be a side gig. So to date, the fund has four investments, one being Mushati Media, which is a PR and strategic communication company. The second is Prime Stars. Prime Stars they focus on youth development programs, especially in education, being in your science and mathematics. The third is MAG. MAG is a company based in Pietermaritzburg, KwaZulu-Natal. The company produces aluminium products and glass and finishes. And the fourth and most recent investment that was done probably 6 months ago was Palesa Pads. So Palesa Pads produce or manufacture reusable sanitary pads. So I think just to jump into the fund fact sheet. So just jumping into the fund fact sheet. With the investment focus of the fund is very industry agnostic and can invest across all sectors. So we can invest across all sectors, being your education, and health services, retail, etc. We primarily seek in industries that have high growth potential and can create sustainable jobs. So at the moment, due to risk mitigation, the fund can only write check sizes between the size of 1.5 million to 10 million rand, and no one investment can exceed 10% of the fund's share capital. With qualifying investors, we take capital from your high net worth individuals, corporates, and trusts with the minimum subscription amount of R1 million. The fund has an investment horizon of 5 years in the portfolio companies. So between year 4 and 5, we'd like to seek an exit in the business and realize our returns. And with the returns, for investors, it would range between your risk capital, which is the total amount invested, obviously minus your tax that was deductible upon investment, plus CPI. And the other is your risk capital plus CPI plus say 5 to 10%, and that's your SD and ED respectively. Our current investors include the likes of your Smallland, Diageo, SIFA, and Standard Bank, as well as WDB Investment Holdings, with a total capital committed of around 80 million rand. So why the WDB Growth Fund? I think with the WDB Growth Fund, it's primarily your ESD spend is not written off as an expense, and you can recognize it as an asset, which then sits on your balance sheet. We try to balance between your development costs as well as returns. So returns aren't as aggressive as your other funds, because we need to, as well as cover the development and the risk associated with that. So currently with the team, we are a team of 4. It's myself, I'm the analyst. We have Sibongi, who's the fund manager, and Ulungile Maling, which currently joined as the senior investment analyst, and Nikki Allen as well. She's the project coordinator. And this team is the seed team. So I think I did mention we work very close with seed, and primarily the services they offer us is sourcing and recruitment of entrepreneurs. They provide the entrepreneurs with high development business support, as well as your ADPs, which is really an acronym for assessments and development plans. So upon seed running the programs with the entrepreneurs and trying to get them funding ready, that's when really they hand over the entrepreneurs to the fund, and the fund would run the investment process. And we have the seed team. It's led by Amy Feinberg and Yolandi and other team members. We have our board of directors as well, which is the chairperson is Faith Kanyile. She's currently the CEO of WDB Investment Holdings. We have Tanya Slawat, who is also on the board but works very closely with the team between seed and the fund, trying to ensure that the work flows efficiently, and she really advises on the strategic level. Also, Donna Rachelson. And then we have Opa Munamudi and Melani, who also sits on the board. And then Fazlin is really just on the investment committee and does not sit on the board. I think with Fazlin, she brings a lot of experience to the table, especially with the modeling and valuations of the qualifying companies.
Fundo, thank you very much. Very interesting. So let's, we've got a few minutes, so let's just recap and summarize where we're at this point in time. So the WDB Growth Fund is an ESD fund where probably corporates who invest in the fund can get not only the tax deduction when they get from the normal Section 12 chain. Corporates can invest up to 5 million rand per annum, but they can also get points towards their triple BE scorecard. My understanding is that those whatever goes onto the balance sheet and those points are carried forward from year to year, so corporates only have to top them up. Now, I also understand that you're sitting quite a lot of cash pile and you're actually looking for investments. What type of investments are you looking for?
So, Jeff, with the WDB Growth Fund, we're not really industry agnostic. So we invest across all sectors, being from your manufacturing to retail, logistics, and so forth. Just obviously we need to trade by the 12J rules. And we can't invest in your alcohol, sin businesses, property development, and drugs.
So you're open for investment?
We're open for investments.
So if anyone out there who's looking for investments in a particular business should email you. Why don't you just give the guys your email address so they can contact you?
Yeah, sure. There is capital to be spent, and we need to create jobs, which is number one objective actually with investing in SMEs. So with my details, email address is mfundor@wdbgrowthfund.co.za.
Thank you, Mfundo. We look forward to hosting you again, and look forward to WDB's success. I do know that the fund has performed exceptionally well. In fact, the valuation of the share price has increased by 50% in the last year. So well done to you and your team.
Thank you, Jeff.
Okay, nice to have you.